Okay, thank you, Roxy and worship team. Good to see everybody. Yep, 50 years is a very long time. I know a little bit of their story. They met in college, isn't that right? It might surprise you that, or maybe it won't. It surprises me because I'm not in the dating scene anymore. We just passed 12 years. It's not 50, but that's something. Not in the dating scene anymore, but a growing number of people meet the one or go about trying to meet the one, no longer, necessarily in college or at work or church or something like that, but a growing number, you may realize this, meet the one on a dating app now. And it's very interesting. It's a strange phenomenon, and you got to imagine how awkward something like that must feel, getting to know somebody in that way. I think it's too easy to fall for people putting their best forward in a place like that. I think we all go through life holding back certain things about who we are until we know that it's safe to share the rest, the truth, all of that. But there's something unique about that setting where you get to create a profile, and this is the only way that you're seen by people you're hoping you might have a shot at a meaningful relationship with, and inevitably, as you can imagine, people find that when they finally get together, they were interested in the app. You don't have to get dressed or leave or start awkward conversations. You can have all those in the safety of a little bit of distance, and they think they may have found the one. It might be this one. This one's very interesting, and then they meet each other, and maybe they were led to believe that they were a little better looking than they actually were, or that they were more successful. You're thinking he's gonna roll up in his Rolls Royce, and he shows up in a Corolla. And there's nothing wrong with Corollas, great cars. My first car was a Corolla. But when you're expecting something different, there could be a letdown, and people are getting frustrated with this. They invest this emotional energy and let themselves imagine that the one is finally there in their lives, only to discover somebody different was behind that profile than who they imagined was the case. And a little bit of that is actually something similar to that is going on here in John 12 with Jesus showing up in Jerusalem finally. And when he gets there, people had imagined something about him that wasn't necessarily what they got when he showed up. We've been talking about these signs that were so important in the Gospel of John, and said so much about Jesus and who he is, especially his power and the promise of what he was going to bring. But then when Jesus showed up, believing that he was the one that they had been waiting for hundreds of years, who was going to free them from this awful situation that just terrorized their lives, every part of their lives, being people in a occupied nation. He came, and when he showed up and what he started talking about led them to believe that they, like some who are leaving the dating apps, felt when they met the person they had only known on the profile before and discovered it was kind of someone different. So I'm going to read a little bit here at the beginning of our section, and we'll talk about what this meant for them and go from there. So my slides got a little out of order here, so I'm going to back up. Okay, we're going to start reading here on John 12, starting in verse 12. It says, the next day, the great crowd that had come to the festival heard that Jesus was on his way to Jerusalem. They took palm branches and went out to meet him, shouting, "Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Blessed is the King of Israel." Now, their shouts are so important here because they tell us a whole lot about who they thought he was. So that language where it says that they went out to meet him, what that communicates is they were seeing his arrival as something like a parade where you go out with a welcoming party, you roll out the red carpet, and some honored political figure or somebody famous, somebody very important that you want to give them your best, he's being welcomed in and kind of like being led in like a parade after a huge military victory. And it even kind of sort of looks like a wedding procession, on the subject of love. And what he was saying to them, what they understood he was all about is that he was going to go in and he was going to sit on the throne as their king. That's why they shouted, "Blessed is the King of Israel." They believed this was finally the time they were going to have their king back on the throne. And that song that they sang, Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, that comes from Psalm 118 in your Old Testament. And it's a song that celebrates a time that the people of Israel were in a harsh, rough conflict, and the king came out victorious, and the people sang that they were free again. They were at peace again. God had shown up. And so when they're out there shouting, "Hosanna, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord," they're telling us what their expectations were about who Jesus is and what he was going to do. It's like you go to a football game, and your guy is out there, and even though the award hasn't been handed out, sometimes you'll hear these chants, "MVP, MVP," right? That's what they're doing here with Jesus. He hasn't gone to the throne, but they've seen enough of him. They've been so impressed by him doing things like turning a couple fish and a few loaves into enough food to feed several thousand, and walking on water, and lastly, that we saw in the last chapter, raising Lazarus from the dead. He's been doing all these things, giving people born blind their sight. And so that's where they are. They're all on board. They're all in. They're with him. They're shouting, "Hosanna, MVP, this is the guy." And they're waving these palm branches. You may know that this was called Palm Sunday. And even those are sending a signal about what it is they thought Jesus was coming to do. The waving of the palm branches, that's something that goes back to the Jewish holiday that came to be called Hanukkah. And it was a celebration of a time when another oppressive nation was occupying, and this group of men, a guy by the name of Maccabee, you may know this story, he led a revolt and a rebellion, and they were able to win back their nation, take their land back, and when he came in, after having defeated the enemy, he took his place on the throne, and his family became royalty after that. So they're waving these palm branches, saying that this is about to happen again. This is what time it is. It's time now for everything that we had hoped for to be realized. The King has come. But again, like I said, on that first date with the person who seems too good to be true, and you discover there's just something about him that it isn't as good as you were hoping everything was going to go. Pretty quickly, Jesus, who they thought was coming in as their knight in armor, said some things that led them to believe that he had been misleading them the whole time, because he does show up and start talking about a relationship with him. But he says that it's a relationship with him as our king that doesn't come the way that they were hoping, but it's going to come about, and it's going to be maintained by a life that looks like glory through a cross. It looks like death. And so as we keep reading on, Jesus has to confront this for them. This is a bit more of what takes place here. They were ready to welcome in the victor, and we're told that Jesus found a young donkey and sat on it, as is written, "Do not be afraid, daughter Zion. See, your king is coming, seated on a donkey's colt." And we're told that at first his disciples did not understand all this. Only after Jesus was glorified did they realize that these things had been written about him, and that these things had been done to him. And it says, now the crowd that was with him when he called Lazarus from the tomb and raised him from the dead continued to spread the word. Many people, because they had heard that he had performed signs, went out to meet him. And so the Pharisees said to one another, "See, this is getting us nowhere. Look how the whole world has gone after him." And then it says, now there were some Greeks among those who had went up to worship at the festival. They came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida, and from Bethsaida in Galilee with the request, "Sir," they said, "we would like to see Jesus." And Philip went to tell Andrew. Andrew and Philip in turn told Jesus. And then it says that Jesus replied, "The hour has come for the Son of Man to be glorified." So they had this expectation, this hope of glory. And now Jesus is saying that the time for glory really is here. And it's so important that he says that there at the end, that the hour has come. You might remember a number of times things have happened in the story of John's gospel leading up to this, where it talks about Jesus' hour. So when Jesus' mother wants him to do something about the wine shortage at the party, he says, "What do you want me to do? My hour hasn't come." And a couple times, crowd tries to seize him and kill him, and we're told that they weren't able to do it because his hour or his time hadn't come. So there's this moment that everything in Jesus' story is moving toward, and now we're told that time has come. It's the hour for the Son of Man to be glorified. And this language, you might remember we did a series on Daniel a little while ago, where we see this figure of this Son of Man, this heavenly being that's so very mysterious, coming to displace all the kingdoms of the world and to take his place as king of all creation for his people and for the whole world. This is the key verses here. Daniel writes, "In my vision at night I looked, and there before me was one like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the ancient of days and was led into his presence." Here it is. "He was given authority, glory, sovereign power," and it says, "all nations and people of every language worshiped him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion that will not pass away, and his kingdom is one that will never be destroyed." Jesus, when he said that it's time for the Son of Man to be glorified, he's saying it's time for that. It's time for everything that God had promised his people to start to happen. And so they hear him talking about this, and they're ready for it. They're all in for it. And then pretty quickly, Jesus upsets their expectations. And it started when he rode in. When you're expecting a military hero, somebody who's shown all this power that he had to heal sick people and cure blind people and even raise the dead, you're waiting for somebody to show up dressed right, ready to lead the people. And so I don't know about you, but in those days, they would have imagined he was riding on some really impressive war horse, like ready to lead the people. Maybe today it would look like rolling up in a tank or something. I don't know, but he doesn't do that. He rode in on a donkey, humbly. This is something that the book of Zechariah had already told the people was going to happen, that when the king came, he was going to come, and he was going to show up on a donkey. Again, going back to that image, you're expecting the Rolls Royce, and your guy, you're there to have the date with, shows up in a Corolla. That's something like what's going on here. This is not how royalty shows up, especially when he's going to be glorified. He's going to be made their king. And so his ride, being a donkey, is a message. He's telling them right there that you're right to see that I'm the king, the one you've been waiting for, but you're wrong about how this glorifying thing is going to happen. And so he says that he's gonna win his crown not through military might, not through maneuvering, not through amassing wealth or controlling resources, anything like that we imagine people would want to go about making a name for themselves and gaining power. It's going to be through not war, but really, really profound humility. Something very, very different still to this day than had ever been on offer. And the people don't get it. We're told that even the disciples didn't get it until after a whole bunch more of Jesus' story took place. And so we can go on and we can look at that instead of being excited about this king who had come, the people there are privy to an exchange that Jesus has with the Father hereafter. And this is Jesus' moment, and he shows us something about the occasion and the feel, the atmosphere, about what's really at stake here with it being his time. He has this exchange with the Father. He says, now my soul is troubled. Again, he's going there as king. You might think he was excited, he was ready, he was pumped, but he says, my soul is troubled. And what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour? No. It was for this very reason that I came to this hour. Father, glorify your name. And then we're told that a voice came from heaven. I have glorified it and will glorify it again. So he's not hyped up and ready for battle. He's not stoked about storming the palace and taking control or anything like that, like ready for war. It says that his soul is troubled. And what that tells us is that him being the king was going to come at a really huge cost. It was such a great cost that part of him would have liked to be spared from it. But again, he's quick to say that this is the whole reason I came, but it's going to be painful enough, it's going to cost enough that part of him would like to have been spared from it. And the crowd is there when he's having this conversation. We're told that they were there, they heard what it was said, and they thought it had thundered, and others said an angel had spoken to him, and Jesus said, this voice was for your benefit, not mine. Now is the time for judgment on this world. Now the prince of this world will be driven out, and I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. And we're told he said this to show the kind of death he was going to die. The crowd spoke up. We have heard from the law of Moses that Messiah will remain forever. How can you say the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? And Jesus told him this right here. You're not going to have the light, you're going to have the light just a little longer. Walk while you have the light before the darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the dark does not know where he is going. But he says, believe the light while you have the light, so that you may become children of light. When he had finished speaking, Jesus left and hid himself from them. And so this is the moment of his glorification that he's sharing with them about. And it comes with him being lifted up. Now that language of lifted up, it can be used like as a metaphor, saying that he would be honored, which is the normal way that a king would use that language about being honored, being praised. Kings wanted to do things in their time that would have lived on past them. They wanted the historians to write stories about their great battles and everything that they built that had their names on it, and how they expanded their kingdom and gained so much wealth and honor from other nations and all this stuff. But Jesus is saying that his glorification was going to look like him being lifted up in a different way. And he's using it in a grim, literal way. He's talking about being lifted up on the cross. And the crowd is starting to pick up on this, because that's not the way the Messiah is supposed to be lifted up. They believe that the Messiah was going to be forever. How can he talk about being crucified here, being lifted up in that way? They don't have a category for that. And it's so interesting, because we take the cross for granted. We sang about the old rugged cross and how we cherish it, and we want to cling to it and hold on to it until the day we get to trade it in for a crown. We want our lives to be cross-shaped in that way, but to this point, that wasn't a good thing. That wasn't something that anybody was there for. We know that we need to be saved by the cross, but they wanted desperately to be saved, but they wanted to be saved from the terror that filled every part of their lives every day. That's the kind of glory they were waiting for. That's the kind of king that they thought Jesus had been leading them to believe he was all along. And so now he shows up and he starts talking about this cross, and beyond that, what he's going to be doing for the world. And this is really the heart and the power of it. He's saying with him showing up and the way he's going to be glorified on this cross, that this was the time for judgment to come upon the world. And he says there that it's going to drive out the prince of this world, or ruler of this world is another way that you can translate this. And that through that, he was going to draw all people to himself. And this is where we get all this stuff wrapped up neatly for us in a package, because, again, they had those nationalist hopes. They had the hopes that their oppression was going to be over, that their suffering was going to end. And Jesus is saying, it really is, but I'm here for more than just your hopes as a nation. I'm here for more than just your freedom. In fact, you've got a bigger enemy than Rome that you need to worry about. Whatever is going on for us on the world scene today that scares us and makes us wonder if everything's going to be okay, like where is this world headed? Jesus is saying that any enemy or problem that we point at in this world is not really ultimately the issue. They're pawns in a game, and behind that is the ruler of this world. Behind that is the devil himself. He's the real enemy, and in order for the world to be made right, he needed to be driven out. Driven out. This is one way that John's gospel is different from Matthew, Mark, and Luke, the other three gospels we have in the New Testament, because they tell us a number of times that Jesus met somebody who had a demon possessing them. He has these run-ins with the devil in Matthew and Luke. He goes into the wilderness to be tempted and tested by the devil for 40 days. And here in John, we don't get him dealing with demon-possessed people. We don't see him having a run-in with the devil until we get to this point where he talks about his cross being like the ultimate exorcism of the world. It doesn't look like the exorcisms in Hollywood where you get a terrified, trembling priest shaking and in fear for his life, but it is much more deadly than that, because Jesus is going to do this exorcism. He's going to cast out the world, drive out the ruler of the world. That's the same word that's used for an exorcism in the other passages in the Gospels. He's going to drive him out by going to the cross. And this has to happen. This is what needs to happen. This is what must take place for Jesus to fulfill the promises and to save all of us from what we really need saving from, or hope, is for him on the cross to drive them out. It's going to look like the ruler of this world beat him. It's going to look like Jesus lost on the cross. It's going to look like everything but glorification. But the cross is going to tell us a story, ultimately, that everything anybody imagined had happened there was wrong, was misguided. It's like the scene in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. We got any Narnia fans here? Good stuff. You remember the scene near the end? It's in the movie as well, where one of the kids, Edmund, who was supposed to be one of the kings of Narnia, he had gotten under the spell of the evil white witch who was in control of the kingdom, and they were waiting for the king to come and undo all this horrible stuff that she had done. She had enslaved basically everybody in the land, and when Edmund showed up, she met him and realized that this was the beginning of the end, because human beings were supposed to show up, and Aslan was going to help them to defeat her. And so she gets Edmund under her spell, and she's got every right to kill him. And Aslan, the Lion King, he shows up, and he's bound by a law as well that he can't stop. He can't just command to be undone. And so he and the witch have a little parley and a discussion, and comes back, and Aslan is very discreet at saying that a deal has been struck. Edmund's going to be able to go free. And it turns out the way that this was going to happen is that Aslan was going to surrender himself to the witch to be killed so that he could go free. And nobody was ready for that. And when he showed up, the way it's described in the book, the queen is just so overwhelmed with adrenaline and excitement because she thinks this means that he's won. She can't believe he was stupid enough to actually show up and has him bound and shaven and ultimately slaughtered on this stone table. And when she does it, she tells him, "You're a fool. I'm going to kill you, and then I'm going to go and kill those children that you're doing this for, and everybody is going to be enslaved in her kingdom forever." But we're told that Aslan knew more than she knew, that there was an even older magic, it says, that she knew nothing about because he's eternal. He's the Jesus figure in that story. And that by giving his life to free Edmonds, it was gonna let loose all of Narnia because he would rise from the dead and be able to speak healing over them. And it's done really well in the movie with him roaring and just breathing on people who are frozen and they're brought back to life. It's really, really cool. But that's what's going on here. Lewis got it from Jesus. Lewis got it from the story we have right here that by Jesus being lifted up on the cross, life is going to come. And it's such a surprising way. Jesus said this in the passage. "Very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Anyone who loves their life will lose it, while anyone who hates their life in this world will keep it for eternal." Or I've been turned on to this idea of eternity life recently. Jesus' life is like a seed, and you know this if you've ever been involved in farming, that sometimes getting enough seed for the crop is very, very expensive, but it has to be done. And each one of those little seeds is an investment. And you think about for these folks who lived off of what they farmed, every seed that went into the ground represented real cost to them, but it had to happen, and you're praying that it wouldn't just die, but that it would sprout to life if everything went well for you. And that's what Jesus is talking about his life, that it's like that, and the goal of it is ultimately that death would produce life, that the loss of that seed would yield a harvest of wheat and grapes, just whatever to satisfy the whole world who he sets free, gives them, like I said, eternity life. And the reason I like talking about it that way is because in John, when we hear about Jesus offering eternal life, as it's translated, when we think eternal, we think life forever with no end. And that's absolutely true, but Jesus talks about us having that eternal life here already and it not being canceled or even interrupted because we're still going to die this side of Jesus' return. And so he said back in John 10 that he came that we would have life to the full, abundant life. That's taking eternity beyond everything that Jesus wiped out with his death and resurrection, and bringing eternity into our lives right now if we follow him in not loving our lives, but letting it go the way that he did, believing that eternity is already given to us as a gift in our hearts if we fully and absolutely trust in Jesus. There's still a lot of hope in our lives in the different manifestations of the ruler of this world who Jesus cast out. We just sang Hosanna, and I think we sang it and we meant it, that we need Jesus to save us, and that we need Jesus in our lives to help us with the things that are really, really difficult and painful and heart-wrenching. But there are all these other glory stories that really lead us along in life in so many ways. We think that more money, we think bigger house, we think a better job, new relationships sometimes, that everything that we're missing out on, everything that is robbing us of peace will finally be gone, and I'll know something a lot more like glory. But Jesus says something very, very different, that your ability to have eternity life isn't being frustrated because you can't live out the world's glory stories. Jesus is saying it's being frustrated because you're not seeing in his cross the invitation to make his glory story your glory story. And what that looks like is not a focus on what I need to be okay, and we all need things to be okay. That's not necessarily selfish, but we can get so caught up in that and look everywhere else to blame everything around us for our unhappiness. And Jesus says eternity life to the full, salvation, hope, everything that he came to offer is ours when we embrace his kind of glory. And that's glory of a cross. Not loving our lives, but surrendering them more. That looks like service, that looks like compassion and grace to people who are difficult. That looks like pushing through and pushing on because it's better for someone else, even when it's rough, and taking up Jesus on his offer to give us strength and power in his cross as he invited us to follow him. We think that it's loss, but Jesus says it's gain. It's gain to let go of your life, to lay it down, and to follow him. Surrendering for the good of others, choosing to fall on the sword rather than win arguments, choosing to give rather than complaining that we don't have enough. I think a lot of us can get derailed from time to time by those other glory stories that's what we need to be okay. Jesus says what we need is the cross. Only his cross can lead us to glory. And he invites us to, even while our hearts are troubled like he was, to give those to him in an ever deepening faith. Maybe you're at a place right now where you realize that your story looks like anything but the glory you ever imagined. You feel like Jesus is that date, even though you believed in him and thought he was the one, and things just aren't going the way that you imagined they were going to when you met him. And maybe some of us need to tell him how we feel and say we want to turn again our hearts and our faith and our hope to his cross. Maybe some of you know that life is off the rails and you've never really surrendered to the glory that Jesus brought about by his cross. You've never really offered him your life in surrender for eternity life that you know you need, but is not something you've ever really felt or experienced. You can do that right now too. Worship team, can you make your way up here? It starts as so many things with laying our hearts again bare before God, telling them the truth about what's troubling us, the way that he told the Father, and say that this is what I'm here for. I'm here for the cross. I'm here for Jesus' story, his glory story. The King has come, and I'm going to live my life shaped like the cross, following him, trusting him, receiving that eternity life that only he can offer. If that's where you are, would everybody stand with me? I'm going to pray in a moment. The start of it all is really taking up the cross as your way of life, as your model, that reminder, that next step. Does it look like seated on a donkey, riding in on your way to your execution? Jesus says that's the path to glory, and he wants you to have that eternity life. Before I pray, a couple things. Roxy mentioned the life groups. Grab one of these cards on your way out if you're not a part of one or you want to learn more about it. This just gives me information so that we can connect you to the right people and try to get you plugged into a good group. This is so very important. This is where we help each other live Jesus' glory story. So please do that if you're not a part of a group. And just a reminder when we're done here to go, and if you're able to be a part of celebrating David and Roxy's anniversary, and they would appreciate that, I think, and it'll be a sweet time. I'm going to say this prayer. If you just lift your heart up to Jesus, if you need to tell him you're ready to plant your life as a seed to bear fruit, to enjoy the eternity life that he offers you because of his cross. Let's pray together. Jesus, thanking you just never feels like enough when our hearts and minds are in the right place. We know that we needed you as our King, and yet there are so many ways that in our lives we live with ourselves enthroned, or the various expressions of the ruler of this world giving us a story that we will follow for wholeness and good life, living in some ways like a king hasn't come. But Lord, your glory is a different glory. It's a mysterious glory, but it's the only hope we know that will lead to eternal life, eternity life. There are folks in here who need to offer a sincere prayer now to confess the ways that they felt let down and lost, but want to get back on track. I pray that you would just help them to sense you receiving their vulnerable, broken hearts, to offer them comfort and reassure them of your love as they remember the cross that you endured so that they could have life, and that you still desperately want them to have eternity in their hearts. For those who've never met you, God, would you give them the courage now, a sense of your presence and life here in this room, your voice speaking to them, asking them to come, and set them free from the grip that the ruler of this world has on their lives, as they just say yes to you, Jesus, the one who would be lifted up to draw all people to himself. You're inviting them. Give them the strength to just say yes and to come in faith and to experience now, today, eternity in their hearts. We thank you for your glory. Thank you that you're our King. We praise you and we lift up our voices in Jesus' name. Amen.
Let's sing Rugged Cross again.